So we're going to talk about your young love now, Summer.
What? You're going to lead the show?
Yep.
I don't know.
It's time
Are you
to
sure you're
talk about
qualified
you.
for the job? I don't know if you're ready yet. I might just keep leading.
You may not be ready, but it's time.
Okay.
It's time to let it all out.
Okay. There's not that much to let out, but I've got a bit to share.
So how old were you when you met your first love?
Okay. I was 17. I was in year 12.
Yeah.
I was in year 12 and I met him through my big brother. So I blame him for all my trauma.
Oh, gosh.
Nah, not really. But he was a few years older than me, 2-3 years, 2.5 years older than me, I think.
Yeah.
He obviously had a lot more life experience than me. I was young and didn't know much about relationships at all. I'd probably experienced some random hookups at parties by that point.
Yeah.
But I had not experienced like a proper relationship or anything like that.
Just how you enter a first relationship, you've got no idea what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah, and probably don't do it with a guy that's older than you because they know what they're doing. Nah. But yeah, so met when we were 17 and dated for a few months, and I remember he just like swept me off my feet.
Yeah.
Took me on dates. He was older, he had money, did all the things.
Bought you stuff or?
Bought me stuff. We had so much fun together. Like I was head over heels in love. Your girl fell.
You thought it was the one.
I fell hard and fast, and like I think after like 6 months or something, he like ended it. Like I remember for a short period, he was like, no, I want to let you go.
Oh.
And yeah, he messaged me and he was like, no, we need to end it. You should go off and do your thing. Like I don't want to take away you're going to be 18 next year. Like I don't want to ruin that part of your chapter, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, no, like I know what I want. Should have listened to him then. But I don't think he was going anywhere, to be honest. I was like, no, I know what I want. But I remember that little pivotal, it was like a mini heartbreak.
Yeah.
Because we stopped seeing each other for a little bit, a few months.
Yeah. You think it's the end of the world at that age, don't you?
Oh my gosh. I had some whatever songs going in my bedroom, crying myself. What songs did I listen to back then? I don't know.
Gosh.
Oh my gosh, Mr. Lonely. I had Mr. Lonely going. Akon was like peaking in my bedroom. I was crying myself to sleep. Like it was terrible.
Oh my gosh. That's funny.
Yeah.
In a bad way.
Yeah. And then I don't know if I messaged him or he slid back into my DMs like saying, I miss you. And we reconnected. And then from then we, started officially dating. I feel like we were young then and partying quite a bit.
Yeah. Just about to turn 18.
Yeah. He'd obviously had life experience. He was 19, 20 by now. He had partied quite a bit, had been through 2 different relationships prior to me as well.
Yeah.
So he had experiences in relationships, in heartbreak, all of those kind of things.
Yeah.
In sex even, like everything.
Yeah.
I had very minimal to no experience. Like he was kind of the first experience into all these different chapters of life. So he was kind of my guide to
You thought he was the one.
we say it again. But I guess like he'd had all these experiences prior to me, like I said, a few relationships, a few hardships, a few different things, a few struggles, but like I was like fresh meat.
Fresh meat.
But I feel like he became unknowingly, like he became my guide to how I was going to be treated in a relationship, what was accepted, what actions were accepted, how I was going to be loved. He set the tone for I was learning.
It was your new normal.
I was learning off him how that like the expectations of the relationship. So things became very normalized that maybe shouldn't have. And obviously I had learned behavior from my upbringing and the relationships in my parents' dynamic and little different things like I had learned love came into it as well.
Yeah.
So we dated for like maybe 2-3 years. Usual thing, would go out partying, he would get too drunk, like, just the usual little fights you'd have back in the day.
Yeah.
But we never broke up or anything like that. Like
it was just your normal, like you'd go out, drink and he'd disappear. Call him Houdini. He wasn't checking where you were.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. But yeah,
get a beep.
He would kind of take drinking to another level. And certain, like something happened within the family dynamic, maybe like 2 or 3 years into our relationship, with alcohol involved, that my family didn't see as acceptable, and I obviously ran after him, and I was like, no,
not my first love.
Red flag. I feel like if issues arise between a relationship and family members or a family member, maybe just listen.
Yeah.
I was very blinded to the situation that happened, but like I feel like that was one pivotal point that I look back on and I have a lot of regret about. Like I didn't take more seriously.
I think you don't see it. No. When you're in that position,
all
you're
I
literally
thought was
blindsided.
Like, need to run, need to save our relationship, and like not about the situation that happened that night. Or
but I don't
know
think
the one I'm referring to, right?
You didn't know any better at that age.
No, I didn't.
You were still very young, and you were just like, no, honey, come back to me.
Well, how old was I then? Like 20, 21 maybe?
Yeah.
He'd obviously lived out of home in flatmate vibes for a fair few while. Is that the right line?
Fair few while? For a while.
That's just some summer slang. But I was getting ready to like move out of home, so we made the decision to go get our first rental together.
Yeah, and you were 21?
I was around 21, I think. Yeah. So long story short, we lived together for 4 years of our relationship until it ended. We moved into a house.
Got the cat.
Oh, my gosh, we got a cat. My brother actually lived with us at one point in the first 2 years. And I guess I just straight away fell into, like, the dynamic of being a wife and, like, running a household, like, unknowingly.
And you were working as well.
I was working full time. He did FIFO. So
red flag.
Another red flag. But, you know, it was higher money. So, like, to me, it made sense. And I was working full time and living alone, like 50% of that. So that was hard on me. And him being away, the communication was terrible.
Yeah.
Like, I remember, like, that definitely affected our relationship greatly. And he kind of set the standard for the communication levels, and I kind of accepted that they were the standards that were okay. But
that was your normal.
Yeah. That setup definitely affected me a lot, like the communication and the long distance thing, and I don't know, there was a lot of toxic things around that.
Yeah. Did he drink while he was away as well? Or?
Yeah. So I feel like that definitely came into it, the FIFO thing, similar to your story with Yona. He worked away and he definitely drunk a lot as well. So there'd be some nights, you know, you didn't...
The boys just become their family away.
Oh, my gosh.
And they're like...
I would be at home.
Forget
like
about
alone.
the family at home.
I would have been, working full time, doing the house thing at home, and I'm 21, 22.
Yeah.
And I would like wait up for his calls, like, because that was the only point of conversation we'd really have when he was away, was at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I was very codependent on our relationship, and him being my happiness and my dopamine, which is very unhealthy. I know that now. But yeah, I definitely became codependent on him fueling my happiness. So yeah, the communication thing was very lacking, and I would communicate that I would need more support from him, like via messages or just in general, but like it was always asking too much.
Talking to him.
Yeah, and then some nights I'd wait up and I just wouldn't hear from him because he would be drinking. And you know, that's hard when you're at home. Oh my gosh. But like I'd be sitting at, and that's all I would look forward to at the end of the day, whereas I felt like it was so disregarded on his end, and like that alone makes you feel unworthy, and it's just a simple thing.
It's weird because you think it's normal and you just justify their behaviour.
Well, it was my normal. So and it was all I knew in a relationship. Like
he must be busy.
He didn't really like messaging. I did, but like that meant we had phone calls. Like there wasn't really much what do you call it?
Communication?
No. Compromise.
Sometimes
I feel like when it came to the structure of the relationship, I think I struggled to realise that there should have been more compromises, and like the
50-50.
The things I was asking for were the bare minimum, like just to get a message.
You should want to talk to your partner at the end of the day.
It's like I was begging for the communication side, which was minimal. Like I wasn't being overly needy. Yeah. It was just a general thing that wasn't a priority to him, but when you're doing long distance, it definitely
when
affects
you're not
you.
with your partner,
especially when you're living at home alone, and I'm 21 and he's my codependent, which, like I said, was super unhealthy, and I've learned a lot from that. But yeah, the alcohol thing definitely was it was an issue in the beginning of our relationship, and it was an issue at the end of our relationship. Something my mum told me when I was young, and I wish I took more to heart, is that one line: if there's red flags at the beginning of your relationship, more than likely they will be red flags at the end of your relationship, and there will be ongoing issues unless you definitely both mindfully make decisions to work on it and make changes. But yeah, that's definitely.
What do they say? How you start out is how you're going to finish up.
That's like Mum used to say as well. Yep. It is.
What they're like in the beginning, it's going to be like that at the end.
Yeah, and I feel like I lacked common. Like, I didn't know what expectations to put out there because it was my first relationship. So like I said, he was kind of providing that, and that's what I was learning off.
Yeah.
So the bare minimum became the norm, and that was the expectation.
You just thought, this is what a relationship's like.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone entering a first relationship thinks, okay, this is what it's like. However,
from
the
a
man
young
puts it
love,
across,
if it's a young love, absolutely. Like, I feel like because he had relationships prior, that gave him a bit of a leg up, and like, our relationship was a reflection of his previous relationships, and then I was being affected by the toxic things that happened in his previous relationships unknowingly, and unknowingly by him, because we were both too young to realise the effects
it was going to have on each other.
That it was having on each other, and I didn't know that he was passing that on to me. Like, I see it now, and I see the effects young love can have on someone that doesn't have a very good perception of a healthy love.
Perspective?
Perception?
Oh, maybe.
Oh, maybe. No, don't bring it back. But yeah, I think that was one of my biggest struggles I took away from like the young love thing, was he provided the common ground of like what I was going to expect. And don't get me wrong, like, we had a good relationship as well. Like, there was a lot of highs in between that. Like, we traveled, but I think like the alcohol thing and the issues that he brought into our relationship were a common reoccurring issue. Each year we'd cycle through the same kind of issues: him working away, me being at home, not really moving anywhere.
I feel like it would have been hard for you being the one at home, and like,
it was very lonely.
You like, obviously you have that trust in a relationship, but like, you don't know, like, you know, what they're doing or what they're up to. You only know what they say they're up to.
Yeah.
But that's what you take on.
I never really, like, made any assumptions because, I don't know, I'm a very trustworthy person. So I think the best of people, which isn't always a good thing.
No.
But, like, I would never assume anything unless I had information. But there were definitely red flags throughout, like, our relationship of, like, it not being healthy. And... yeah, fast forward to what? We were together for 7 years, and you know what they say about that 7-year itch? I think we'd just been trying for a good year. Like, we'd been trying so hard to make it work, and like, he was all I knew, and I was so sure that our relationship was going to work because I was in love, and like, that's all I knew of life.
I think you get to that stage as well where you go, okay, do I want to have a family with this person?
Yeah, and I think
something we need to talk about?
But like, that's just because I thought that's what was meant to happen.
Yeah,
like, I was so caught up in being codependent on him and that being my future with him that I didn't look at anything else. Like, there's certain
at the time.
Yeah, there's certain things that happened and like things that got worse as we went on in our relationship, and how unhappy I was.
And then you start reflecting, like, am I going to spend my life with this person being unhappy? Like, yeah.
But it does become so normal that, like, you stay there.
Yeah.
Like,
it's just your normal.
I wasn't...
you don't know any better.
Like, I wasn't thinking about leaving, and I was so unhappy, just generally because I think we started to grow apart, and I started to grow up, and, like, I was codependent on him. He was codependent on me. Like, it was just an unhealthy environment from the beginning that kind of... you know, I don't know, it just, there wasn't, positive.
You get to the point where you're just arguing and that becomes your normal.
Yeah, that too. I feel like we were bickering all the time about nothing. It was like we were trying to find reasons to fight, and there was nothing that was ever like severe, but it was just repetitive behaviour.
Yeah.
ongoing, repetitive.
And then I feel like there were certain things you shared with me, like once you were out of the relationship, where I was like, I had no idea. Like,
yeah.
And those are things that obviously you keep to yourself and, you know,
yeah.
you don't talk about, but they would have affected you as well along the way.
Yeah, I feel like as I got more committed to the relationship. Like the more years that went on, the more committed I was to staying.
Yeah.
And that's like terrible because the more years that went on, the more unhappy I was getting.
Yeah.
But I think like by staying and making it work, I was trying to prove to myself that no, I made the right decision. Like no one's going to tell me I did the wrong thing. Like I didn't want to disappoint myself. Like I wanted to be like, no, this is love and you're going to make it work. So yeah, the longer I stayed, the longer I fought to make it work, even though I was getting more and more unhappy.
Yeah, and it's hard because you get to know, you know, their family. You get to know, they get to know your family, and that's one of the things that you
his family
run through your mind at the time. You're like, oh no, I don't want to let go of their family. Or
no, that's blah, blah, blah. That's a good point to make. I feel like the biggest thing holding us together. We lived together for 4 years. We had 2 cats together, and by the end of our relationship, the biggest thing that was definitely holding us together was all the exterior factors and having to process working them out and then moving forward was too much. Like you said, I was so invested in his family. They'd been a part of my life for 8 years. Like I didn't want to lose them. I didn't want to have to think about packing up a house and finding somewhere else to live on my own. Like that was the unknown for me.
I feel like that's why a lot of women stay. Yeah. They just think, what? Like, am I going to have to figure out if we don't work?
And in your head at the time, you think all of these exterior things, especially losing like your best friend. Like no matter what was going on, he was still a common like denominator in my life for the last 8 years. And he was like my best friend. And I was codependent on him in my life and he was a part of my life. So like removing him and changing all these things seemed a lot harder than just staying where I was and being unhappy. Yeah. Which is horrible because I look back now at young me and I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish you like did it so much sooner and I wish you just chose to love yourself first and like just prioritize your own happiness. I was so invested in making the relationship work and making him happy that I just completely lost myself. Like I don't know.
The one thing I respect him for at the end of the day was making that choice to walk away. Yeah. By the end of it, because I feel like you would have stayed.
I would have,
And you would still be the unhappy self. And like I was so watching your journey to now, like I'm so proud.
But yeah, the exterior factors were definitely massive. Like, the moving house, all of those things. And then obviously we did make that decision and that was...
What got you to that point of making that decision together?
Something happened, but also he, like you said, like he finally ripped the Band-Aid off for us both. Yep. Like it was out of a common respect of like him knowing that I wasn't going to give up and like him not wanting to give up either, but us both knowing we were making each other extremely unhappy just because of we were staying in the toxic environment and it was getting worse and worse. And
it wasn't working.
It wasn't working. I didn't like who I was becoming with him and he didn't like who he was becoming
you feel
in
crazy.
The relationship because he wanted to stay but he also felt a pull to go in another just to remove himself and find himself and so he definitely ripped the Band-Aid off and it was kind of once something else happened and once the conversation was had and we had tried to do this like a few times prior as well to put
you
out
always
there.
just end up back
like
with
a year
each
prior
other.
6 months prior we did nearly have that moment but like it was always no we can make it work because we all like to go back to a bit of comfort. We don't want to rip off the Band-Aid and dive into the unknown because it's a scary place to be. Oh my gosh, I don't even want to think about how I felt back then but I would do it 10 times over now knowing where I am today and deciding to finally step away and put myself first.
And how did you feel back then when it did happen?
What, when it broke?
When you broke up?
Oh my gosh, I was like destroyed. I literally, because we met when I was 17, I did not know who I was. Like I only knew myself as a partner, as an auntie, as a sister. Like I feel like I got very lost in the relationship and providing support to him that I didn't have anything left for myself. similar to you as being a mum, I guess.
Yeah.
But
and how old were you when you guys broke up?
I was 20. How old am I now? 29, 25?
Yeah.
It was Christmas.
Still very young.
Like I was about 25 and we'd lived together for 4 years. So it was massive. I had to pack up my life and literally start again. And like 17-year-old me that stepped into this relationship, I was kind of back to her because I'd lost the one thing that I obtained when I was that age, which was my ex-partner. And I was back to that and starting all over again. And like I missed out on this huge portion of my life because I stepped into a young relationship. Like I was 17, so that was a moment in a chapter that I missed of becoming a woman. Yeah. Like I didn't get to figure out who I was as a woman before becoming a partner, and that really affected me stepping out of that relationship because I was lost. I didn't know who I was as a woman.
You didn't know how you were going to get yourself out of it.
I didn't know,
that's
like,
what you had to figure out.
I didn't know who I was. Like I literally didn't. My happiness was dependent on that relationship. So now I had to go find new things that made me happy, and that was scary because I didn't know where to look. And like people would ask me what my favorite song was, and I'm like, I don't know. Like I didn't know any of it because I was so invested into this relationship and being tied up into it. But having to restart at 25 and find myself as a woman was, oh my gosh, a journey.
Yeah. I remember you messaging me one day. This was post breakup, and obviously it took you a little bit of time to get to that stage, but you were like, I'm going to go to the beach and read a book. And like lie at the beach by myself. And I was so proud. And I'm like, yes, she's going somewhere by herself and she's doing it. Like, I'm so proud. Just the simple things that you forgot how to do on your own. Yeah. You had to relearn all of that and make that step of I'm going somewhere by myself. Yeah. Not with my partner or, you know.
And I think that was the big part of stepping into the young relationship. Like, I didn't get that time to become me and then connect with someone that's them. Like, my partner became me. Like, it was like an attachment. Yeah. Straight off the bat, I was attached to him, and like that was what I knew and how I knew to move because I was too young and I was very codependent, and it was a toxic codependency. And that definitely became my happiness was him. So like his emotions affected me and all of those things. But that was definitely, the hardest part was stepping away and I think just finding myself. But I did promise myself when I left, like I knew that it was the end and like there was no going to like backward and forwarding. Like that was a promise. Like we both made that decision and that was that. But I did promise myself from that moment, realizing when I like you dropped to the floor in that moment, I remember it in my bedroom floor, just promising to love myself. And like my key note that I took away from the end of that relationship was I never wanted to depend on someone else for my happiness again. Like I remember having this thought and I was like, I never want to feel this low again in life. And by doing that, I need to ensure that I withhold a certain happiness within myself that I can always fall back on. Like no matter what happens in life, no matter who I am with or what happens, I can always come back to myself and just at least be off the floor, like be standing in that bedroom, not be on my knees. Like I was on the floor, just completely lost. So through that thought pattern, I just promised myself a whole year. Like I promised myself a year to love myself, do things that made me happy. Like I did date a little bit through that year, but I dated to learn more about myself. I had to learn about what I liked in other people, like experience other people.
I think it was a good little distraction here and there.
Oh yeah, definitely helped.
Obviously you found yourself in certain spaces and you're like, I just need company or even someone else to talk to.
And different people bring different things out of you. Whereas I'd been with the same person for a long period of my life, that like experiencing meeting other people and meeting new like parts of myself were really like a beautiful experience that I kind of focused on with the dating side. For 3 months of that though, I was like 3 or 6 months, I was like, see you later, like crying. Like it was a lot. Like don't get me wrong, I was down in the dumps in my pillow, like struggling to function through that heartbreak, grieving.
I feel like that's when you started obviously coming over.
I did. Like being around my family was my safe place. Like it was so hard to stay in my room and
we wanted her to be there. Like we didn't want her at home in her own thoughts. Like it was a good distraction. Like you know, stepping into our family, and I feel like that's kind of where you started, you know, hanging out.
I was always
with us
around, but obviously through my relationship, I was back and forward. Like I wouldn't have like long periods, or whereas I started having sleepovers and things like that. But yeah, grieving the best friend that I had built and the relationship we had together was definitely another hard part of that relationship. Like you're grieving someone new that knew you through that chapter of your life too, and now they're not there. So the grief through that chapter was extremely hard. There was definitely very low points. But then jumping into the year of self-love, like I said, I promised myself no matter who I met, no matter what I was doing, I was going to heal, and I was going to prioritize finding that bare minimum like level of happiness within myself before I stepped into anything else.
What was one thing you turned to on that journey to keep your mind busy?
I went to the beach all the time.
Yeah.
So the beach became like my place, and like I would go for walks, like put my music in. I would either just walk down the coast or I would go sit on the sand by myself. And I think just doing things by myself that felt really uncomfortable because I wasn't used to doing them. They seem really minor, but like they literally are things I go back to now because I realised like I enjoyed being at the beach. Like, and I was like, that's something I love doing. What?
It's crazy because you see the time and effort you're putting in someone else, you're now putting into yourself.
100%. And I was putting like
wow.
90% of my energy into someone else, like unknowingly. Like that was just the type of person I was, like as well. I overpour. So doing little things like that. I also would like go to a gym class. I remember like finally getting to my first gym class.
I remember you exercising,
Yeah, I did turn to movement because it was the one time I would stop thinking. Like I remember going to my first gym class and crying. Like obviously everyone faces the mirror, so it was fine. But I remember doing like the squats and like obviously some thoughts rolled in, and I just remember doing these squats. No one could see me because everyone was facing like that way. But I remember just crying, like there'd been tears in my eyes, and like that just being the first Band-Aid I ripped off that I just did something for myself. And then I realised like I just
made that step.
I just had to keep showing up in moments like that. Like even if it was 1 hour of my day, I knew that 1 hour I was loving myself and I was just zoned out from what I was.
Prioritising your well-being.
And then it was finding more and more things like that I enjoyed doing and finding the answers. That's why, guys, we joke about the favourite colour. Like it's actually, as much as I joke about it, it was like such a pivotal point in my heartbreak story. When like my relationship ended and things like that, it was like one of the questions I asked myself, or like through dating, people ask you random things. And I remember thinking like, I don't even know what my favourite colour is. And like I just saw that as such a reflection of where I was in life with my self-love. Like I didn't even know what my favourite colour was, and I became it my mission to, I'm going to figure out what my favourite colour is. And obviously there's so much more context to that.
You started writing in a journal a bit, didn't you?
Yeah, I journaled a bit through different stages. I feel like getting like a guided journal is always a lot easier because it's less pressure.
Writing it all out.
Yeah, Kmart do good $5 journals actually.
Yeah, it's a good way to express yourself and feel like, I don't know, you've got a place to keep it to look back on of your growth journey as well. Yeah.
But yeah, the self-love journey is now where I'm at, and this will be my 4th year stepping into it. So I committed to a year, and then I got so in love with myself, I just stayed here.
She's like, Lana, I'm sick of being single, but I'm like, well, you got to go on a date.
Yeah, it's weird because now after all the things I've learned, like I said, step into my first relationship, I had no tools. I had no guidance except for what I had in front of me, whereas now I've spent the last 3 years just teaching myself how to love myself and realising the love I give to my family, like I deserve in return. And like I started to love myself that same way, and now like my bare minimum in a relationship is for someone to love me in that way too. Like as much as I love myself, I know what I expect now. I like respect myself and I love myself, and like I'm worthy of love, and like, oh no, never, not now.
I know. People make out that like if you're single it's a bad thing, or there must be something wrong with you, where I'm like, what are you talking about? Like that means she has standards. She will not settle for the bare minimum in some men that are out there.
And I feel like the funny thing is, in like today's society and stuff, like the bare minimum is so low. Like what I'm saying I expect should be the bare minimum.
Yeah.
Like someone to love, respect me, like be able to
Give you
emotionally
the same
regulate
love.
themselves.
Yeah.
Is at least 6'2", 6'4", dark, tall and handsome.
If you guys know anyone.
But, you know, these kind of things like on a respect level and healthy relationship level should be the bare minimum, whereas the bare minimum now is tossed between what you're comparing your friends going through or like what you've been through in the past is your bare minimum.
Yeah.
But like, no.
It's okay to be single, guys.
It's okay to be single and lift those standards and be proud about holding them where you like think you're worthy of. And I think a lot of people don't realise their worth should be a lot higher than they are settling for.
Yeah.
No settling. So that's why I'm still single, guys, because
I don't
trauma.
I don't like when people are like, oh, she's still single.
I know. I feel
Like,
like people think there's
She's
something
still
wrong
waiting
with
to
me.
meet a decent guy.
I'm like, yeah, you should all check yourself.
I know. You've done the inner work, and I feel like you want to meet someone who's already done that inner work.
Yeah, I have done the inner work, and I'm very mindful now and very self-aware. I feel like people come around like there's something wrong with me because I'm still single, but really it's just like I have found a lot of comfort in my solitude now because I love myself, and like I've found happiness within myself that my company is enough for myself, and anyone beyond that has to reach a certain level to add more comfort and happiness to that and be worthy of letting you in my bubble, because it is very protected. And I do generally believe in universal alignment, and I feel like no matter what, I've needed this.
Get rid of the dating apps.
Yeah, don't worry, I have. But I've needed this self-love chapter to really get me to the level of worth that I know now the male that I deserve is going to meet me at, and like I have no doubt that I'm going to find him eventually. Yeah. Maybe tomorrow, maybe in another year, or I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, I'm happy and I'm content knowing that like guiding myself with that worth
and
will
I'm
get
so
me the
proud
partner in the relationship that I deserve and like I'm waiting for.
I'm very proud of seeing
patiently
her
waiting.
Know her worth, and I'm like, girl, do not settle for less. Like you are so happy on your own. Don't let anyone come in and ruin that for you unless they are bringing the love that you deserve.
Yeah, and I can add to that actually, like I am very thankful for like my family and my siblings and always backing me, and like when I'm feeling a bit unworthy, like they're the first to pull me up on it and be like, hell no, like you're not dropping your standards, you deserve the world. Like they're definitely my reminder on the daily of my worth.
Yeah. It's a choice to be single, guys. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. No. I mean, we're always all working on things, but like there's nothing, I don't know.
There's no red flags that I see. The only red flag you have is the part where you don't want to go on a date.
Maybe that's the issue.
Yeah.
That would probably help.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm going to put more intention into it, guys. I'm going to try.
Okay, we're going to wrap it up with a few questions now. Are you ready?
No, I don't like being in the hot seat. You guys know I like to talk and be the leading force.
Now's your time to
I don't like
talk.
it when you're in charge.
Okay, what would you tell your younger self?
Don't do it.
Same. No, seriously.
Obviously to prioritize finding things that bring you joy and happiness within yourself.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, that would definitely be mine.
Love you before you love anyone else.
100%. Can we get that on a shirt too?
Quote of the day.
Oh, you guys know I love a good quote.
What would you have changed or done different if you could go back?
I think in the beginning of the relationship, like, I wish I had more tools, like
more knowledge
and like, well, I don't know, maybe just like communicate more outside of my relationship, like with you.
Yeah.
Like I feel like if I communicated certain things with my older siblings a bit more, you guys would have helped guide me.
Yeah.
Whereas I really
kept it to yourself.
I really tried to keep things to myself and work through things by myself, and with the knowledge and tools that I had, that wasn't enough. That wasn't enough. I needed more support, and like that was my own doing because I wasn't comfortable enough to reach out and say, hey, I think I'm struggling, or hey, is this right or wrong, because I think it's wrong. But like What do you think?
You spend your whole relationship like justifying the love they have for you, that you're like,
yeah,
no,
and just
I don't
certain
wanna
actions, like, you know, covering things up and thinking, I think if I just communicated more beyond my relationship in a safe place with like you, it would have really helped me.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have listened.
I know, you're so oblivious. What are you talking about?
But, you know, I feel like still getting those extra nibbles in my head would have helped.
Yeah.
I don't know, just communicate more and don't be so, be more
What
vulnerable.
would young you say to you now?
Oh my gosh. You know your favourite colour, babe? It's orange.
Really?
Yeah, because that was one of my like leading questions. No, not really. That's out of my relationship. Can we take that back?
Should we start again?
Yeah, go.
What would young you say to you now?
I'm so proud of you, obviously, straight off the bat. So proud of the way you show up in this world. And I'm going to get teary.
Oh, we need some tissues.
Yeah, I'm just really proud of you.
I'm proud of you too. Don't worry. We can cry together.
Yeah.
Look at where you are now.
Yeah.
So proud.
I think just proud of like the person I show up as always, even like through certain like hardships I've been in through life. Like I feel like anything that's ever happened to me has never affected how I show up.
Yeah.
Like no matter what happened to me, it never took away like who I was. Like I've always showed up as myself. And
you
like,
never let it change you to become a negative person in life. Like you always turn it into a positive.
Yeah. Like I feel like
it's just you as a person.
Yeah, like I feel like I've never let anyone dim my light completely.
Yeah.
Like no matter what was going on, I always search for the light, and now I'm shining brighter than ever, obviously, because I've really been investing into myself. But
everyone deserves to shine in this world.
Yeah, great. Now I need a freaking towel
Daily
to wash
reminder.
my face. Oh, you got me good on this one. Yeah. All right, well, I'm going to backhand that comment and try and make you cry. Oh. What was the hardest part about my like love journey and you watching as a sister looking in? Like what was the hardest, I don't know.
I think the hardest part was not knowing deep down everything that you're going through while you're in the relationship.
Yeah.
Until you got out of it and then you expressed those things to me and you spoke to me about those things, and I was like, I'm so sad that you had to go through those things alone.
Yeah.
And you felt like you couldn't turn to me or talk to me about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's important, like within family, is like check on your loved ones in a relationship and just ask them, how are you going? Like, is everything okay? Because you do understand that side where people get so caught up in their love and their relationship that they don't actually seek outsiders' opinion because they're so oblivious to what they're getting put through. Or
and I think it's not even the oblivious side, it's more the like you don't want the opinions and you don't want any outside views. I don't know. Yeah.
The outside views that make you determined to leave your relationship.
Yeah, like I feel like you don't want to hear what you know you're going to hear, like in a roundabout way. And you know that your like siblings and stuff are always going to tell you how it is because they love you so much. So I think having a certain control over what I was communicating about what I was going through helped me stay in the relationship, right? So like unknowingly you continue to do that. Whereas like I said, if I had shared things with you and communicated a little bit better, you probably would have pulled me up on a lot more, and like I would have had a bit more common sense. And
and you were young and obviously that was a factor, but I think you were so caught up in love that like no matter what was going on, you didn't want to look outside of what if as well.
Well, it was a big part of me. So I think if I removed my relationship that I had from a young age, I would have lost, which I did. I would have lost myself, and I wasn't prepared to do that.
And by the end of
the
it,
time.
you know, that's where you were. You had lost yourself.
Either way, I had lost myself, guys. So
Don't lose yourself in your relationship. If you can't receive the same love in return, then unfortunately, it's a sign to leave.
Yeah, I think just, really do communicate to someone. If you do feel like you're struggling through something relationship-wise right now and you have a sibling or a best friend you can turn to, I know being vulnerable is hard because that's where I always struggle, and that's where I've struggled a lot throughout my relationships and my life with like my siblings and my friends, because I think I'm the support person. Like I've always been the support person. So I think
it's okay to have support from us. Yeah.
Asking for support through that breakup was the first time I kind of ever did it.
Yeah.
And it was the hardest thing I ever asked for, but oh my gosh, did it change my life? And it strengthened my relationships with my girlfriends. Like my best friends were there for me, and like our relationship, it was another pivotal point that like really brought us close together. And I feel like I allowed you to be my big sister, whereas I was always trying to like be the tough and like one in control, whereas it kind of let you be that love for me and that support for me.
It is an eye-opener, and you realise that everyone's got their own stuff going on in life, in their relationship. No one's perfect. No one's relationship is perfect.
No.
Whether they're married or not, no one has it great. Like, we've all got our own struggles.
I think between our own dynamics and then different dynamics in our siblings, like there's a lot of us and our friendships, like we've seen so many different relationships behind closed doors and things that have gone down that like everyone has something going on behind closed doors. And like
what is normal?
What is normal? We love having our platforms, and like yes, we spread positivity and love and light, but like I said, allowing you guys to step into the Humble Pod with us is where we want to connect on a deeper level, and like always remind you that we are struggling too, whether it be in relationship, whether it be in the like work side of things, like there's always different struggles going on behind our closed doors too, and like this is our way to kind of share with you guys to a certain level, like on a personal level, and like maybe just let you feel a bit more comfortable about being vulnerable with your loved ones or just the situations you're in. Like this is our way of connecting with you more and like letting you see that we're human as well, and like yes, we have our platforms, but like
there's nothing wrong with being single, guys.
No.
Auntie's single, and honestly I feel like I actually can see her finding the love of her life and the person that she's going to spend her life with, have a family with. Like, I know that one day she's going to get exactly that, and you should not settle for anything but being loved in return the same way.
Yeah, and let me add, like a good year or two ago, I didn't think I was worthy of that.
Yeah. So it has taken a long time and a lot of self-love. And she's taught me a lot of self-love throughout motherhood as well. Yeah,
so obviously my journey, guys, as you'll be seeing across our platforms, I'm really trying to like guide Alana through her own journey, because she's missed a certain chapter of her life as giving yourself love because you did the mum and you did the partner thing, and she missed her self-love journey. And obviously she's still in her relationship with Yonna and she's still a mum, but I'm always here to remind her, because of my experience, that we've got to put her self-love journey first now too, because otherwise when are you going to do it?
Yeah,
we don't want to wait till you're single and heartbroken, because that's not going to happen.
I know.
That's not our priority. So
yeah, it is even like a new thing to me, and it's everything's new. Like everything that you're teaching me is very new, but that's another chapter that we can talk about. Yeah,
that is another chapter.
We don't want to start ranting for another hour.
But to wrap it up,
I'm so proud of you, sis. Just so you know.
Stop it. No wonder my ego's so big. Listen what I have to put up with all the time.
I tell her all the time, you're going to make it in this life, in this world.
And I tell her I'm not going to make it unless you're by my side.
She's got something about her that everyone loves, and honestly she adds such positivity into this world.
Oh, thank you. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. Like obviously this is a very vulnerable conversation to have. I feel extremely uncomfortable sharing it, but if I know that it could add a little bit of light or guidance to any of our listeners tuning in, then I'm prepared to put myself in that position, as is Alana.
Yeah.
And that is our reason for the Humble Pod, like I said, for you guys to come in. And when we're in here, we are going to push ourselves to be vulnerable.
Shed some tears.
Eat some snacks. Oh my gosh, that's so good. And like when you guys are tuning in, we hope you feel seen and heard and you take something away from it. Next time, make sure you bring a snack if you haven't. Maybe we should start doing that. Share snacks with us, guys.
Yeah, snacking with Auntie.
But we're going to wrap up on our veggie fusion. What did you rate them?
Oh, I reckon they're not as good as the normal one.
Actually, I prefer them. I feel like the normal ones are too...
I need spice.
Yeah, but these are just... No, but
or
the
vinegar.
texture. Like, I feel like the normal ones are too puffy. Yeah. And I actually don't like that. These ones are like more chips.
Yeah, they're light. I just don't like the flavour.
Well, what do you rate it?
Oh, a 6.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to go a 7. Like, I would buy them again, would you?
No. They were different.
You heard it here first. You're so ruthless. I love it.
I'm just going to tell you straight.
But that's all for now, guys. Thank you so much for tuning back into the Humble Pod. Sorry for our little break there, but sometimes life happens. But we will always make a comeback, and we will always be filling our pod whenever we can. So thank you so much for tuning in.
And remember, stay humble.